I'm about to die. And before I die, I want you to get her and tell her that these are the people responsible for my death. This is your health. You really need to advocate for yourself. There are people who need to feel better about their lives by making you feel awful.
Yeah.
So I was very thankful when I lost about 90-something% of my friends, lost my job 2008, got the yellow pages, and I started calling every event planner in the yellow pages. And one Wednesday afternoon, I called a particular number, and it turned out to be the office of Lady Elizabeth Anson, who is the late Queen Elizabeth's cousin. I want you to know that you can do anything you set your mind to. The only thing you can't do is what you don't want to do.
Like, you're actually that girl. Love real women stories that help you grow? Hit subscribe and follow, and let's level up together. Now back to the episode. Welcome. This is the Paula Oyinko Show, where our mission is to inspire women like you to become the best version of yourself at every stage of life. Today, I'm really, really, really excited to have Elizabeth Solaru on the podcast. Elizabeth is a microbiologist turned headhunter turned world-renowned cake maker. She's made cakes for the ultra-high net worth and royalty, and now she's the founder of Diversity in Luxury. So just know that this conversation is going to be probably the best conversation you've had today. It's not too much pressure, Elizabeth. Hi.
Thank you.
No problem. I'm honestly so excited to have this conversation. But before we get into it, I'm just going to get you to pick a card,
Okay.
and then you just answer any question that you get on the card.
Eyes closed. And I will pick this one.
Okay. You read it. You tell me what's on it.
Okay. So, what advice would you give to young women entering into the workforce? Ooh, that's a really good one. Ooh, what advice would I give? Okay, I think I'll rephrase that by the advice I would give myself
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
entering into the workforce when I was about 22.
Mm-hmm.
I would say go in and work hard, but be seen to be working hard. That's the first bit of advice.
Mm-hmm.
The second bit of advice is understand the work culture of where you're entering into, because what you get sold during the interview is completely different to what you might find in real life. So you need to find out who the top performers are in that organization and why they are the top performers. And you need to see if your values align with those of the top performers, because sometimes they don't. And if your values align, choose one or two of them as your mentors or people to shadow or people to model your behavior after. I would also say if you're entering into the workforce, you need to be aware of the value that you bring to the workforce, because many young people tend to assume that they've given me a contract, they've given me employment, and they're giving me money at the end of the month, but they're giving you all that for a reason. That's because you bring value. And sometimes your value is not just the work that you deliver. Your value could be even in your personality, because there are young people around that you just love having around because they've got such a positive attitude. And there are young people who don't even have such a positive attitude, but you love having them around because you know they're the truth teller of that organization.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say recognize the value that you're bringing to the organization. And I would also say if there's a pension plan in that organization, negotiate a pension plan. If there is is an existing pension pot, negotiate and see if you can actually add more money into your pension plan. It's never, ever, ever too early to have a pension plan, because trust me, 30 years later, you will be so grateful for that pension plan. So those are bits of advice that I have.
Those are brilliant pieces of advice. I wish I had that when I started in employment, because I think one thing that you said that really, really, I say it all the time, is making sure that you're being seen to be working hard. And I didn't realize that, like, when I first started out, I thought, well, I'm doing all the work. You said I'll get this. In my interview, you said I'll be promoted in a year. It's been 2 years now. What's going on? But I think you're right. I feel like what I missed in that moment was like making sure I was visible doing the work. And I really do think that's where a lot of people go wrong. So great words of advice, I would
And
say.
I also think that when you enter the workforce at a young age as well, your job is to make your boss look good. And a lot of people think it's the job description and person spec. No, it isn't. Is to make your boss, even if your boss is the most incompetent in the world, it is not for you to let the boss know, to gossip about it, to talk about it. Your job is to let your boss look good. And by letting them look good, you look good, and you get to that promotion quicker.
I never thought of that at all, ever. I don't even want to go into this too much because this is just the icebreaker to make things warm. But I wanted to say, in your own words, who is Elizabeth Solaru?
Oh, that's a really tricky one. I think a few years ago, I would have described myself as microbiologist and blah, and blah, and blah, and blah. But I think now I'm just someone who just wants to live. And I mean really, really live. Because I think the longer you spend on earth, the more you know that you've lived most of your life is behind you. So whatever you have left, 30 summers, 20 summers, you really want to live and make the most of it. But I did ask ChatGPT to describe me.
Yeah.
Because I thought, okay, me describing myself, I'll waffle. And I said to ChatGPT, use 3 words to describe me. And I love what ChatGPT said. It said curious, dynamic, and compassionate.
Oh, I like that.
And I love that. And I'm thinking, if AI can detect compassion, that's amazing, right?
It is.
So I love that.
Yeah, I like that too. And you feel like that actually is you in 3 words?
I think so. Because these are words, funnily enough, I know I'm curious, definitely, or else I wouldn't have done as many career changes as I have. So definitely the curiosity is there. Dynamic, I know a couple of people have said I'm dynamic. I bring up the energy in a room. I make people feel inspired, et cetera, which I don't know why, but
No,
people think that.
You do.
But for me, the compassionate bit, the empathy, my favorite word on earth is kindness. I really, really love being kind. It's, if one word could, really, really encapsulate exactly what I want to be, that is kind.
Oh, I love that.
Not nice, but kind.
Yeah.
Because I believe that kindness is an act. And I think sometimes people think if you have a nice demeanor, that means you're kind. But to me, nice is a trait. It's a superficiality. You can be very nice and yet be very dastardly. So for me, kindness. I love empathy and being compassionate and being kind.
All right. What kind of things do you feel like you do to be kind? To put you on the spot, and I guess let me let you answer the question.
I think let me answer that.
Yeah.
I can only answer that by what somebody once said to me.
Yeah.
I remember being on a shoot. It was a shoot. I can't even remember why we were doing the shoot, but we're doing a shoot. And I noticed that certain things were not right. It wasn't my job, but I was kind of like correcting, making sure the dress was draping and the beads were beading and that sort of thing. And the actual dress designer, he was watching, and he said something like, that he's the kind of person that if it's nothing to do with him, he won't do anything about it.
Oh, okay, I get you.
But he said that, he said, I've been watching you. And whether it's to do, because I was a cake maker. So he said it was nothing to do with you. And yet you were making sure that was good and that was good for that person and that was good for that person, and making sure that everyone got their shots on the day. But that to me was normal.
Yeah.
It's what I would do.
Yeah.
It's, second nature. I'm the kind of person that even if I don't like somebody, and there are plenty of people I do not like, I'm not going to lie, even if I don't like you, but if something can benefit you, I will send it your way. but I'll tell the person, don't tell them I sent you.
Yeah.
Because over my dead body, she will know I'm being nice to her.
Yeah.
But, you know, but you, if it's in your nature, it's in your nature.
Yeah.
Just to be nice and kind and, well, not nice, but kind.
Yeah.
And you can help people despite themselves. So that to me is an example of not nice, but kind.
I think that's beautiful. And I really do think the world needs more kindness and people doing that for each other. But you also mentioned that you were a cake maker. But prior to that, you've had a few like different steps on the journey. So like, let's talk about microbiology. How did you get into that? Is that what you wanted to do when you were younger? Like, what was that like?
Oh, that's a really good one. Well, obviously, grew up in a Nigerian home. So it was medicine or law, nothing in between. And I did get admission into dentistry, but I can never do the mathematics was always a problem. So I then got admission to do, initially was actually biochemistry, but I wasn't, I mean, I would have been fine because I did love biochemistry. I love biochemistry. But then I thought microbiology sounded a bit more fascinating, especially as there were different types of microbiology, from soil to air to water to food to, there's just so much. I was like, wow. And also it fascinated me that organisms that no one can see can actually create a lot of havoc and can also be used in making beer. So I just thought that was fascinating. So I ended up studying microbiology at university. And after that, I did my master's in medical microbiology and parasitology. And it was just love. I just loved it. And I loved the lab. I loved that, you know, that kind of like atmosphere. It wasn't the office. So I wasn't going to be in a cubicle being bored.
Yeah.
And I did that for about 15 years, actually. I worked with the NHS for 15 years. So I paid my dues, as it were. But I remember thinking, I can't be a lab rat for the rest of my life. There's got to be more to life than this. And there was a lot going on in that particular lab. And I just thought, no. So I just resigned. I did not have any job to go to. And I just resigned. And I remember thinking, okay, Elizabeth, you've done it now. This is the most idiotic thing you've ever done in your life.
Yeah.
So what next? Obviously, what next was to get another job. And I remember so I resigned on a Monday, as you normally do. On the Thursday, I was walking past the lab phone and it rang, and whoever's nearest, you pick up the phone and answer. And somebody at the other end said, would you like a job? They were an agency, they do locum in, and normally they'd call labs every day. And normally we tell them to go away. We've already got jobs, thank you.
Yeah.
And this time I just went, actually, I think you're in a bit of a lot today. I do need a job.
Yeah.
And how soon can I start? And he said, you can start next week if you want. And I started locum in, and it was while I was locum in that I thought, maybe I should try something in business. Had no idea what that would look like. And then I thought, oh, how about we do an MBA? And then I went off and did an MBA while I was locuming. And that was it.
Yeah.
And that was it. And so while I was doing the MBA, I then realized that networking was going to get me my next job.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to do something in the city, have that cubicle in the city after all. And that was how I networked my way into a headhunting role. And yeah, that was it.
Wow. I think your journey is amazing. But I did want to kind of like go back and ask about that moment where you felt like, is there more to life than this? Like, was there anything specific that triggered that? Or was it just kind of like a moment that you had, like you just had a bit of a light bulb moment?
Something triggered it. It was an accumulation of years of, I don't want to say this word lightly, abuse in that setting. There was also a lot going on in my personal life. I had just left a horrific marriage, abusive in every way you can imagine. So there was a lot going on, and I just realized that. And also I went through a particularly awful moment where I could have easily died. If I wasn't a microbiologist, I definitely would have been unalived.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, is this how I would have come to Earth? spent life in misery and then just died.
Yeah, yeah,
And I'm thinking, is this really what life is?
yeah,
Never really living my true life,
yeah.
or never even exploring what I could have been. And I thought, no, there's got to be more to life than this.
Yeah.
Like I said, there was it was a combination of a lot of things, and also seeing that people who do nasty things, they get away with it and don't get punished.
Yeah.
I know we believe in karma, and if we think, oh my God, they're going to get theirs. Sometimes they actually die peacefully on their beds, surrounded by their grandchildren, and being praised as wonderful people. And I'm thinking, this can't be my life. So that was a big thing for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And if you don't mind sharing, like, what was your near-death moment? What happened?
Okay, so near-death moment, trigger warning to everyone. I had a baby. She only lived for a couple of hours,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And I remember that I kept saying something wasn't right, something wasn't right. Of course, Black woman, medical racism. I was ignored. And unfortunately, she died. But I'll never, ever forget, and I've always said, I don't know how it's going to happen. There was a particular doctor, he was a German doctor. That's all I remember about him. And he showed me the most compassion and grace I've ever received from anyone in my life.
Yeah.
He was incredible, amazing. And there was a chaplain that came out at 2 a.m. in the morning as well to be with me. So I had these men and myself
Yeah.
alone in this room, and it happened. And, she transitioned. Really, really thankful for that. And what I do remember was that I didn't feel well after that. And a lot of the nurses thought that it was because I had lost a baby.
Yeah.
Everything is because you had a baby. And I was like, no, trust me, I'm a microbiologist. I do not feel right. And I remember at about 24 hours later, at about 3 a.m., I had to drag the coin box because I was put in a room by myself. I had to drag the coin box from somewhere on my hands and knees. And I called my workplace and had to wake up because I knew there's always someone on call.
Yeah.
So I woke up the microbiologist on call and I said, you need to go and get our consultant, Dr. Hosel. I'm about to die. And before I die, I want you to get her and tell her that these are the people responsible for my death. And even the person at the other end thought I was being dramatic.
Yeah.
And I was like, trust me, you've worked with me. You may not like me, but I will not exaggerate when it comes to my life. So anyway, thankfully, my consultant woke up everybody in the hospital where I was at. And lo and behold, a comedy of errors. Number one, a lot of test results were not looked at. So I was literally septic from inside.
Oh my God.
Then the antibiotics I was prescribed was that antibiotic. They've been told never ever prescribe this antibiotic. I was prescribed that for some weird reason. And there was a whole load of shed of things as well, which, I'm not going to go into now. And that was how my life got saved by Dr. Hosel. And this is the funny part. Well, not funny. Well, funny part.
Yeah.
So they worked through the night. I got my IV antibiotics and monitored and blah, blah, blah. The following day, I then get the lead consultant come in and say, well, Elizabeth, I want to warn you against the dangers of self-diagnosis. And I had two options at that point, either to remain quiet
Yeah.
or to leap out of bed and bash him about the head. But I decided to remain quiet because, again, they had charge of my notes.
Yeah.
You don't want them writing in your notes, mad Black woman,
Yeah.
angry Black woman. And what annoys me is that even somebody like Serena Williams, the Serena Williams that knows her own body inside out, she had problems when she had her first child. And the doctors were telling her to hush. And she kept telling them, I don't feel right. And this is a woman with money who can advocate for herself.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about a quarter of a century later, 30 years later, and we're still talking about the same thing.
Yeah. And it's predominantly Black women that are impacted by this. And I would love to say, like, because based on your experience, in a lot of ways, your network did help you get the help that you needed. But what advice would you give to somebody who is going through something like that, or they've been through something where they need to seriously self-advocate and nobody is listening to them? What could they do in a similar situation?
Be shameless about it. So first of all, record, if a doctor or somebody's saying, you can't have this because of this, say that's fine, but I want you to put it in writing and I want you to sign that if anything happens to me, you are responsible because I have told you X, Y, Z. You put it in writing, then you record it on your phone, then you blast it on social media. This is not the time to be shy or to be dignified. This is your health. You really need to advocate for yourself. If you can have somebody else, a friend, family who is very vocal, if you can have them in the room with you, have them in the room with you and get people to sign. Because when it's personal, when it's like, you doctor, blah, 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 you are saying that I do not need blah, 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 please sign that and make sure it's recorded.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what they can do. They can do anything to your notes. Things can get lost. Things can get deleted. So you need evidence. So you've got your mobile phone. In those days, we didn't have a mobile phone. Got your mobile phone. There is a lot that you can do. Now, that's completely different to you've gone online to check your symptoms and it's anything from cancer to whatever, God forbid. But the point is, you need to advocate for yourself, especially, and I find this with people with certain illnesses that are predominant in people of color.
Yeah.
Because you are more of an expert than some of the doctors that you will meet. So you need to be vocal in advocating for yourself.
Yeah. Wow. No, I agree with you 100%. And I think also in situations where like you're very vulnerable. So if you've been through a surgery or you've maybe just had a baby or whatever it is, and maybe you're slightly incapacitated because of what you've been through, like you said, having somebody there to advocate for you is really key. But I think the difference is that you were on your own, did you say?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was on my own. And in those days, and well, still, whatever you got told medically is the right thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I've worked in a hospital, so I know that nowadays things are slightly different. Numbers of near misses, because there are things called near misses, numbers of near misses are now being recorded. So it didn't quite happen into a full-blown incident, but
It could have happened.
it could have happened. It could have been dire consequences for the patient. So, but we don't know how many.
Yeah.
We don't know how many, because we tend to forget that the medical professionals are human as well. There's human error. They are there to save lives, but they're also overworked, underpaid for the most part. And I don't care what people say to that, but I know they are really, really underpaid. And there's no other job in the world that would people do that for a living for that pay. Seriously. So it's a systemic issue. It's a systemic change that needs to happen.
Yeah.
And
That's the only way we can move forward, really.
Exactly.
Oh, you also mentioned that you sadly lost a child. I'm really sorry to hear that.
That's all right.
I can only imagine how that was. But I wanted to ask, like, how did you find the strength to move forward after experiencing that?
I've got to say my faith and my church, the church I belonged to at that time, really, really helped. I was very active in my church and I had a very, very strong faith in God as well. And I simply refused to be a victim because people will victimize you. There are people who need to feel better about their lives by making you feel awful.
Yeah.
So I was very thankful when I lost about 90-something% of my friends. Really, really thankful. Because when I look at the book of Job, it's not the friends that left that were the problem.
Yeah.
It was the friends that stayed behind. They were the problem. And they stayed behind to mess with his mind. So it was all bones and skin, and we know he had skin conditions and stuff like that. But his mind was still active. His mind was still, no, I know I'm a good person. I know I don't deserve this. And his friends were like, how dare you say that? You're an evil person. You're a this and you're a that and you're the other. So I was very, very thankful God got rid of those friends for me. So I was able to move on.
Yeah.
And another thing I loved about the book of Job was when God restored Job's fortunes, God said, pray for your friends. And I found that unusual. I'm like, why should he pray for his friends? They were horrible to him. But God said, no, pray for your friends.
Yeah.
And you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And the same friends, all of a sudden, they were giving him gifts. And I'm like, but where were you when he was suffering?
Yeah.
When it was
true.
something. So that was a book that I read and I became extremely familiar with. And it's very nuanced. It's really, really nuanced. And I say, if you're a Christian and you're going through a lot of things, that's a fantastic book to read.
Yeah.
Because even, going through it, there's a lot of lessons there. So that for me, so my faith and my church really, really helped.
I love that. Oh my goodness, Elizabeth, this is just a start. And I know that there's so much more to unpack. So that was like, after that incident and other things that you had experienced, that was the moment where you realized, like, is there more to life than this? Actually, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to move into being a headhunter. And you mentioned how, like, you knew that networking is going to be the thing that helps you get your next position. So what did that look like? You were doing locum, and how did that transition into headhunting and to that next phase of your life?
That's a great question. I love that. So I was locum in, doing the MBA. So I was kind of like wearing a number of hats because while doing the MBA, I was in a classroom full of people who I felt, oh my God, they know what they're talking about. Nah, they didn't. Nobody does. Nobody does. Oh my God, if only people know that a lot of people don't even know what they just do it unafraid.
Yeah.
Or they do it full of fear anyway. But yes, so I had classmates. I had a very supportive study group in particular. I was in a study group with 3 boys, and they were extremely supportive. And I just knew that I just had to network myself. So what that meant was that I had to look for networking events. And thankfully, my natural curiosity, I found some in my business school. So I then discovered that the marketing department in my business school, they had these alumni, these ex-students who have now gone on to become chief execs.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they'll bring them back, or marketing directors, etc. So they'll bring them back to the business school and they'll hold events and they'll invite students to attend. To my shock and horror, I thought the place would be jam-packed. I thought it'd be standing room only. Barely 15, barely 20 on a good day. I was the only MBA student there. So what did I do? I quickly ran back to my classmates. I'm like, guys, you've got to come and see this.
Yeah.
I'd been about 3 times, and I remember they had at least 12 events. The 3rd time, I'm like, guys, you've got to come to this. And I remember the boys came in and they were like, nah, this is not for us. I'm like, trust me, I have been here before. I will not lie to you. They couldn't believe it. And this is the good part. Because obviously, maybe because we're MBA students and a bit more mature, we were not afraid or frightened to go up to the CEOs and start chatting with them and start networking. And that was event number 1. Then event number 2, I knew someone who knew someone, and she got me in to a job hunting workshop. And I'm like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
And this workshop was for super duper chief execs and finance directors. I found myself in. It was free. I thought we had to pay like a gazillion. No, it was free.
Yeah.
So I went. I remember I went the first time. I was like, and the guy, there was no gatekeeping. Everything you can imagine he was talking about. And this is how you do your CV. And this is, I couldn't believe I was like, okay, this is not happening again. I went back to class. I said, boys, you got to, this time they've learned from me. They're like, if
Yeah.
Elizabeth says it's, so they came and we all sat there thinking, this is amazing. And the guy who was running that job hunting, to cut a long story short, he ended up hiring me
Okay.
to become a headhunter.
Yeah.
But before I joined him, my business school also said, you know what, Elizabeth, because you badger us so much about getting a job, we're going to give you a desk and an email, no money, for you to help other MBA students do the same thing. So when I finished my MBA, I had a tiny job at the Middlesex University Business School. And that was, so I used that job. Oh my God, you can't even know. I reached out to Harvard. I reached out to the London Business School. And I tell you what, the people who are on top, they don't gatekeep. The London Business School, I think his name was Chris Jackson or Chris Brown or something. He invited me. He gave me lunch. He showed me everything. He gave me materials on how to set up in my business school. He was a godsend. All because I just had the audacity to say, can I come and
Yeah.
can you tell me how you did yours, please?
Yeah.
Now, the business schools who told me to go away, who were extremely rude, were the business schools who were literally at the bottom of the league.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And I'm like, this is why. Because you're not nice and you do not
Yeah.
share. But the business school, Harvard Business School, the lady was like, oh my God, you're calling from England? Okay, we do this and we do
Yeah.
that and we do that. She even gave me papers.
Oh wow.
I remember the day I was like, oh my God, Harvard Business School. So that was me. That was that's how I am. I'm naturally curious.
Yeah.
Because the worst you can say is no.
Yeah. It's true.
So, and that was that was what it looked like for me. And then of course, when I became a headhunter, I had to network even more because I had to find candidates and I had to
Yeah.
find clients and I had to, so networking to me was second nature. Any event people don't want to go to, I'll go to. And a couple of things I did to distinguish myself, because I know I didn't go to school with any of these people with connections or anything like that. But what I did do was I wrote articles for the website of the company I was working for. So, because I just thought to myself, why aren't people writing articles? Because when you land on the company website, the articles are the first thing you see.
Yeah.
And your name is in the byline. I'm thinking, so that means everybody sees my name. That's great. So I started writing articles. I then started taking over the job hunting workshops. And my boss would send me to business schools, to lots of consultancies, and I'll just deliver the same thing he was delivering to chief execs, etc. So that was a really, really lovely time. So yeah.
What are your top tips for networking like Elizabeth?
Top tips for networking. Okay, so the first thing to do is to write a list of your top 10 dream people. So write a list down. So Oprah, Kerry Washington, Tyler Perry, whoever, write them down. Okay, and then you study them. So you don't, when they post, there are a couple of things you can do. When they post, either be the first to comment or go to their online platform that has the least engagement and always comment there. So that way your comment stands out. So second thing you can also do is don't agree with everything they say.
Okay. Intentionally, or if you actually don't
If
agree?
you actually don't agree,
Yeah.
don't, there's nothing, it's irritating. Oh my God, you're amazing. Oh my God, oh my God. Everyone says that.
Yeah.
You don't have to agree with everything. If you don't agree, and there've been times when I'm like, there was one post somebody gave about, oh my God, it's, you help people not to get anything back or something like that. And I was like, no. I'm like, we're human, we're selfish, we're, the way we're wired and blah, 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 blah. So if you disagree respectfully.
Yeah.
Respectfully, and back it up.
Yeah.
And back it up. And also, every post that you leave, make sure that whatever you leave as your post or whatever on their stuff, you can turn that into an actual post or content for yourself.
Okay, yeah.
Right? So turn it into a post for yourself. because sometimes some platforms give you the ability to turn it into a post.
Yeah.
So turn that into a post. That is good for you and it's good for them.
Yeah.
Right. So that's online. So if you want to meet them offline, you've got to go to where they are. Right. But don't go to pitch. And this is the annoying thing. Because a lot of people, oh my God, elevator pitch. They need to know what I do in 30 seconds. No, they do not. No one cares about you.
Yeah.
They do not need to know what you do in 30 seconds. You should make yourself so interesting. They ask, what do you do? And you're like, blah, blah, blah. And they think, how can I help you?
Yeah.
That is a better place to be in than, and I do this and I do that. And this is my work. And, and like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Leave me,
Yeah.
The best example is somebody I know met, this is really funny. He saw a beautiful lady at a bar, beautiful lady with beautiful braids. And I think he was saying something like, oh my God, your hair's gorgeous. How do you prevent frizz and humidity and stuff like that? And he let the lady talk. And they were having a great time, having an amazing time, and da-da-da-da-da-da. And then the lady was like, here's my details, and blah, 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 blah. And then he checked. He'd been chatting with Rihanna.
Oh my goodness.
He said that Rihanna was just so nice.
Yeah.
Because he's got like a big mane of hair.
Yeah.
And they were talking about bangles and blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah. And that was Rihanna. And they met at Diana Ross's perfume launch or something like that.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
So my point is, just chat as you would,
Yeah.
whatever it is that interests them. So for example, if you meet somebody like Jeff Bezos, please do not be pitching. Do not be pitching. Oh my God, and I know how you can make Amazon. No, he doesn't need you. Just chat to him about what is natural.
Yeah.
So if I met Oprah today, my dream person, I will chat to her about her garden. She's always showing her stuff from her garden. She's always showing her kitchen. That's the kind of stuff you chat about.
Yeah.
Right? Because she's got her own problems. I was saying to someone earlier, her problems are the 2,000 staff she's got to pay every month.
Yeah. That's a lot.
That's a lot. Her problems are how she's minding her business and someone decides online they hate her because she has done X, Y, Z. So her problems are completely different to normal people's problems.
Yeah.
This was someone who a whole beef industry decided to sue.
Oh my goodness.
Exactly.
I know that.
Oh. So that's my point. So
Yeah.
the thing is, though, people have their own problems. And you being, oh my God, I've got to do, that's not. So my way of networking is completely different.
Yeah.
And I always look to help first. I always look, okay, how can I help this person? Or how can I, either emphasize their message or, really, accent whatever it is they're doing. That's the best way to start.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, unfortunately, they want to take. Many people are not givers. So, and that really makes a difference
Yeah.
when you're networking because, people can spot it a mile away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is true. Especially in this online world, I think it's even more important now. I'm definitely going to try that approach a bit more, but yeah, I think it's just, okay, no, I'm not making excuses anymore. I've decided I'm not making excuses because you can always make time to do the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
But let's talk about from Headhunter now
Yeah.
to making cakes for the ultra high net worth. How did that transition come about?
Okay, so 2008, obviously I'd been making cakes for years, but I kept it on the down low, even when I was a headhunter, kind of kept it quiet.
Yeah.
So a couple of things happened. So the first thing was that after lost my job 2008, got the yellow pages and I started calling every event planner in the yellow pages. And once Wednesday afternoon, I called a particular number and it turned out to be the office of Lady Elizabeth Anson, who is the late Queen Elizabeth's cousin. But I didn't know that at the time. I just called. They said, yes, actually, as it happens, we are looking for a cake maker. And I said, guess what? I'm going to be in your area in the next 3 days. And can I drop some samples? And they said yes. So I found the nicest box I could find, packed my samples and dropped. Before I'd even got home, I got a call saying, Lady Elizabeth would like to see you. And I got the order because she was looking for a cake maker, got the order on the spot, which was great. And then did the event, everything was fine. And then she wrote me this amazing testimonial. And it was a handwritten note. And she said, you can use this testimonial on all your marketing. So that definitely helped me a lot. But a great testimonial might invite curiosity, but it doesn't mean people are going to buy.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
you learn that. So the second thing that happened was that I did a wedding show. And at that wedding show, there was a TV crew that came not to film us, because me and my other person, we were the only women of color at that wedding show. And we were not in the most favorable spot. We were pushed to the back because nobody was supposed to see us. And he came, he filmed somebody else, he left. Then he came back to film my friend. And then I helped my friend and we're like, oh my God, this is big, this is huge. Because in those days, there was no reality TV. It was just advert or television. That was it. So I helped my friend and then the guy left. So I went to watch a wedding show. And then the next thing I heard was, Elizabeth, he's come back for you, he's come back for you. So I ran back to my stand. And then he said, actually, I couldn't get your cakes out of my mind. So he filmed, he said, do you mind if I film you? I got an interview from it. And that was my first time on wedding TV.
Yeah.
And then he then decided to create a show around wedding cake makers. And he said, would you like to be a part of it? I said, no, because I'm a nobody. I'm not a real cake maker. Go talk to a list of these people. And he said, no, I want a mixed ability group. So anyway, I was included in the show. And to everyone's shock and surprise, I won 3 out of 3 times. And it was like overnight, my website was getting thousands and thousands of visits a day. And that really, really helped. So those 2 things really, really helped my trajectory.
Yeah.
And then I started doing stuff as well. I started collaborating with people. I started organizing shoots. I just started putting myself out there.
Yeah.
And and then I started getting the type of clients I wanted. I did a number of things to get to that point. But it was a lot. It was a lot. Yeah.
I feel like you're the queen of reinvention based on all the things we've said. So you've been a microbiologist, you went to be a headhunter, then you've gone into being a cake maker, and now actually you've written a book and you offer luxury strategies, right? But what is your advice for somebody who just wants to start again or wants to try something different?
Okay, so thank you for mentioning my book, The Luxpreneur. I'm proud of my baby. It's my new thing. And what I'm going to do is maybe use that as an example of someone who wants to start again. Because when I wrote the book, The Luxpreneur, when it comes to business books, there aren't that many written by Black women. And even business books written by women on the bestseller list, not that many, maybe 17%, if that. So, and I know that the kind of book I would have loved to read if I was starting all over, that's what I wrote in my book, The Luxpreneur. So if you want to start all over, I would just say, do it. Don't be afraid of starting from the bottom. You don't necessarily have to start from the bottom because you've got transferable skills, you've got experience that you can take with you. But if you have to start from the bottom, do so. And don't be afraid to, on your journey, on the way, to let people know that you've got experience in X, Y, Z, or you've done other things before. So for me, starting with the cakes, I literally just took the yellow pages and I just started calling. I would say that if you're reaching out to people for help or collaboration or support, don't reach out to your best people first.
Okay.
Don't reach out to your best people first. Start with people you don't really care that much about.
Okay.
Because if you fail and stumble and fall, at least you've not ruined that kind of relationship. So start with people that okay, they're not going to give me time of day, but you never know. And that way you're not that emotionally invested. So you're not that hurt when they say no. And also expect, I don't know, don't expect like a 90% success rate. In fact, you might even have a 90% failure rate. That's great. That's good.
Yeah.
The no's are actually good because the quicker you get through the no's, the quicker you get to your yes.
Yeah.
And also, while you're asking and while you're doing, you are also perfecting and formulating whatever your product or service is going to be anyway. So you don't go in thinking, I'm fully formed, I know what I'm doing. No. Be prepared to adapt along the way. And also listen to what the feedback is, listen to what people are saying. I'm not saying that should mean you should abandon whatever, but if things are not hitting people in a certain way, you always need to go back and reassess.
Yeah.
Stay on your path, right? I mean, your focus is still, I want to travel all the way to whatever you want to go to. Destination is still the same, but how you get there, you might have to vary it. So that's what I would have to say to anyone willing to reinvent themselves.
I wanted to add, because you said you have to get through the no's, don't you? How do you build resilience to get through the no's? And also, how do you build resilience to stay on the journey and even adapt when it doesn't seem like things are taking you to that end goal?
Oh, this is where it's not about the outside, it's about the inside, your inner light, your inner, because this is why in my book, The Luxpreneur, I talk about mindset and I talk about knowing your archetype.
Yeah.
Because if you know who you are and you have the mindset and it's internally driven and it's not driven by, I'm writing a book because everybody's writing a book, rather than I'm writing a book because I believe this message. And even if nobody reads the book, even if it gets the worst testimonials and reviews on earth, I will still be glad I've written this book. That is a kind of drive that you need to have. And as I was saying to somebody recently, even if the book gets the worst reviews on earth, I will write another book saying what I learned from writing the book that got the worst reviews on earth.
Yeah.
Right? So the mission is still the same, to write that book and to make the book, get the book in the hands of people. So that for me is where people miss it. Because they think, oh my God, it's been trashed. I shouldn't have done it. No. You were meant to do it. The thing is, at every point, what was the lesson?
Yeah.
And what was the takeaway from it? And who's to say that because it was trashed, it doesn't mean it wasn't, because you never know. That's one thing I love about books. 100 years from now, it could be picked up by a TikToker. And although you're nice and cozy in the grave, it could be helping millions of people. So you never, ever know. There are books that I've got that were written. There was one book that somebody showed me was written in 1300 or something, and it was all about herbs, right? And people are using that book right now.
Okay, yeah.
But when it was written, that book was rubbished.
Yeah.
And now it's one of the oldest books on herbs. So that's my point. So sometimes, as they say, this is above me, this is bigger than me. Sometimes the mission is actually bigger than you.
Yeah.
But you don't know.
Yeah, it's so true. I definitely think. And I actually think when the mission is bigger than you, that's when it gives you the motivation to keep going, because you know that it's not just about you. It's more than you. What is the one thing that you want women listening to this podcast to take away from our conversation?
Oof. I want you to know that you can do anything you set your mind to. The only thing you can't do is what you don't want to do. So if you set your mind to it, you can do it. And people are like, oh my God, but what, confidence and esteem, and just have audacity. You don't even have to be confident. This is the great thing about audacity. You don't even have to be confident. You just have to try, because you never, ever know. And people are like, oh my God, maybe I should get more qualifications, or maybe I should get more experience, or maybe I should get, you will never have enough if you keep thinking like that.
Yeah.
So start with what you have, start with where you are, and start with who you are.
Yeah.
So that would be my message to women out there.
I love that. I'm going to give that a round of applause, because I think it's worthy
Thank you.
of a round of applause. Honestly, are there any projects, you mentioned your book, are there any other projects that you're working on that you want people to know about, and how can people connect with you?
Right now, I'm working on my next awards, the Diversity in Luxury Awards, which is an exclusive event, a lunchtime event of about 50 luxury brands from around the world. So, working on that because it's next month. I'm also to be found on LinkedIn, where I give entrepreneurship advice every day. And for next year, 2025, I've got a couple of retreats where I take a couple of luxury businesses abroad and we talk about helping them find the right type of luxury clients. And lastly, you can get my book, The Luxpreneur, on Amazon. So, any Amazon near you, just type in the words The Luxpreneur and you will find my book.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Elizabeth. And we look forward to seeing what you've got in store for next year.